when you get older, you start to enjoy things and you call them vintage instead of just old. Like, I enjoy old aluminum tumblers. These were classic when I was a kid. Can't find them. Well, I guess they have them now, and make them. One nice thing is that eventually some old things get cool again, like record players. I got a record player for Christmas. I've talked about that, and I got an album that I don't want to talk about. Just one phrase on this album, and it was a song by The Who, a 60s rock band, and it was called "Won't Get Fooled Again," the name of this song. And there's one line in this song that says, "Meet the new boss, same as the old boss." And it's really kind of an idea that's been around for a long time. As far as I know, it went back as far as Jesus, probably before then. Just as way human nature is, that vintage things come around again, and they're popular again, and we change, but we don't really change. And the writer of that song, Pete Townsend, was a little bit dubious of the 60s revolution. And he said, revolution tends to be unpredictable, was kind of the point he was trying to make with that song. And it was, much like revolutions before it. You go back to the Bolshevik Revolution, and the book Animal Farm is written about that, and it's basically the same story. Here the pigs lead the uprising against the farmer, and at the end of the book they're walking around on 2 feet like the farmer. They've become the same thing that they said they didn't like. And the French Revolution, here it was, the French Revolution, same story. The rebellion against the bourgeois, and what happens is Robespierre became a dictator and put everybody that disagreed with him politically to death with the guillotine. He ended up dying on his own guillotine. But that's just the way things are, that the new rulers, the new ruling class that hated the old ruling class, becomes the same thing, really, that they despise. Jesus said this the same way, really. He talked about the political leaders and the religious leaders of his day. He says, you guys really build up the tombs of your fathers. Your ancestors that murdered prophets, you think that you're so much different, but you're really the same. You're doing the same thing. You're plotting murders just like they did. There's really no difference between you and the evil people that you claim to be so disconnected from. You're the same. And that is a tradition. I guess it's a human tradition to become the very thing that we don't like when we have our turn. Along with that, historically speaking, revolution is always a chance for different groups to have their turn, and one of the groups that wants their turn is a group that is against Christianity, and against Christ. The revolution against the Bolshevik Revolution against the czars was an opportunity to try to get rid of Christianity, along with other things that they wanted, but Christianity was one of the things that they wanted to get rid of. Same with the French Revolution. They wanted to get rid of and punish anybody who read the Bible, and so they burnt Bibles and they killed Christians. The 60s revolution was much the same. It was an anti-Christian revolution. We're still feeling the evidences of that, because that generation is still with us, and it is interesting. Pete Townsend's prediction, his prophecy, in a sense, came true. That the old boss, who are these people, these protesters out there protesting Vietnam or protesting whatever the order, the ruling class of their day was, which was the World War II generation. they protested them. Well, now those are the people that many of them are still governing. That generation set the rules for today. And what are they doing today? Well, in the news now, that great protesting generation is forbidding protests in state capitals. They've become the old boss. And along with that, one of the things that particular group or a section of that group has done is to try to use this situation, much like in all generations past. This is not something new, but there's always a force which wants to use this against Christianity. Now, hang with me, because that's not where I want to end up. That's not even the main point I want to bring about. But I do want to illustrate that there is a group always that seeks to use a situation to outlaw Christianity. That has always been a part, since Christ lived, that's always been a part of our world. And so that will continue. But how great is it to have the promise that the gates of hell will not prevail against the church, that the church was established in as far back as Daniel, that he said, nope, this thing is going to expand, fill the earth, and nothing is going to subdue it. This is here. It's going to be here for the long term. So these efforts will fail. It might be uncomfortable, the process by which it fails, much like during the French Revolution, much like the Bolshevik Revolution. There will be some bumps along the way for Christians, but it will fail. But here's where I want to make this applicable to us, because we in the church, we grow up, and it seems like only yesterday that I was a kid and complaining about the way things were done. And oh, won't it be great when I have my chance, when these people are no longer, we might have to wait for a while, but it wasn't any revolution going on, but there will come a time where I'm in leadership and I'll get to do things the way I want, and there's the I and the me and then people like this group together, and it's the we, and we'll lead the revolution and we'll be what we want, and we always see that ruling class, that the leadership as the establishment, and they do things the way they want, and they don't listen to us, and they're not open-minded enough. They should listen to us more. And yet there's a chance that we become the old boss when we do get our chance. We wanted them to be so open-minded for the things that we wanted and we thought were really important for the church. And when we start implementing those things, okay, fine, you're the leadership now, you're the ruling class, but what if the younger generation says, no, I don't want that? Do we silence them? Do we become them? This is the way things, we might have said, oh my goodness, I'm so tired of this particular thing, because that generation thought it was so important, and they thought it was important to do certain things. But then, you go back to a century ago, and the tent meetings. A century ago, tent meetings were a big deal. And those kind of went by the wayside as the next generation came, and then the next fight, that group, that next generation thought that you had to have rallies. Okay, well, we're done with tent meetings, but we still need the rallies, or we need this, or Sunday night church, and every generation has decided we want to do this, and we want to do it different, and there's always resistance. No, we've always done it this way, right? So there's this conflict between two groups, and eventually the young group is the leadership, and they get to say, you know what, there's more of us than there are of you, and we're just deciding not to do this anymore. And there's grumbles and complaints, and then society moves, or the church moves on, church society, I guess, and it evolves, and we become the new generation that is the old generation. And what is there that we really think is important that we're not going to listen to the younger ones? And maybe they're right, and maybe they're wrong. Maybe we should have been doing Sunday night church all along. I don't know. But the point I want to make is that we take a lesson from what we see in the world around us. and understand that we are not immune to becoming the old boss as we assume leadership and as we age. That God has always been critical of that move. Even when Christ was here, he was critical of religious leaders who did not could not seem to be different than the people who preceded them.